I know y'all see this topic on y'all screens. Was Jesus ever married with a wife and children? According to Ephesians 5:25, um, and I guess it was put on there by Candace Lucy, who's a contributing writer to Christianity.com. I'm sorry. A married person must worry about the affairs of earth, while the unmarried person can serve the Lord without such distractions. Christ's entire person was taken up with obedience to the Father and laying his life down not for one woman but the entire church. Did you just contradict yourself?
Instructed air traffic control and military personnel to create a committee for the committee studies
regarding various pilots encounters.
What up, YouTube family? We are jumping on the high level conspiracy wagon on this one. We're jumping on the conspiracy wagon, yeah. Yeah. It's gonna be a pretty bad conspiracy, yeah. I say it's bad because the simple fact is that a lot of people are gonna get mad. But like I said, this is theory. We're on here to share our opinions, share our theories. Basically what we think something may or may not be. Now, we're not saying any of these are facts, okay? I have to get that straight. It's like I have to say a disclaimer at the beginning of some of these episodes because you know how Christians react. If you talk about their stuff, they be wanting to fight wars. But they don't mind talking about other people's stuff as pagan. Even though the other stuff existed long before Christianity. So, let's get started on this one. What do you think? It's hot, right? Yeah, it's a hot subject to touch. Many people believe that, well, there are some people out there that believe that Christ had a wife and children. Two kids actually. A boy and a girl. I think the boy was the oldest one. He was a carpenter, just like his dad and his grandfather. So let's start from the beginning, right? The whole story about Christ. So the beginning part of the story tells how Joseph, who at first was taught in certain churches that was part of the Vatican line. And then when questions started to be asked about that, it changed over to Mary as being part of the Vatican line. Notice how I say it's taught in some churches. Okay, so basically, Joseph marries Mary, but never has sex with Mary because for some odd reason, Mary, who, let's be honest, people. Okay, first of all, who's translating these people's names? If it took place around that era, especially if you got Greeks, Jews, and Romans, these names are going to be Jewish. I mean, unless Joseph and Mary are Jewish names, unless Jesus is Jewish name, we shouldn't be identifying them as that. We should be identifying them by the actual name that they would have said in that area. And Mary and Joseph sounds so English it don't make any sense. But anyways, so Mary almost said had a little lamb, and she was white as snow. Okay, Mary had a child within marriage, asexually, which means she didn't have sex. She was a virgin. And because of this virgin birth, she birthed the Son of God. So first of all, let's get the jokes out the way. Mary didn't cheat on Joseph with God. Okay, we can stop with that. But also, it sounds similar to the stories of how Zeus used to lay with women and created godkin type creatures. You know, basically half gods. I forgot what the actual name for them was. Demigods. Yeah. Sounds very similar to the Greek pantheons of how gods lay with man, which is funny because angels got in trouble for laying with man, but God puts his word inside of a woman to be birthed. It's probably not the same thing. It's probably different. But ergo, basically, you know, now after Christ was born, it said that Christ also had brothers and sisters. Now, it says that the history kind of changes on this. Some people said that Joseph had children before Mary had Christ, and then some people said after Mary had Christ, then she finally laid with Joseph and had 2 more children. But we know that Christ had siblings. We know that. We know that he had a brother for sure. So, my thing is this. Here's the thing. Why would it be such a bad idea to say that Christ had a child? Here's my theory. It would be a very bad idea to say Christ had a child. Because imagine this. Imagine if Christ got married and had children. In some people's eyes, he would not be seen as a son of God. To me, it don't matter. It's like you're married, you had children within a marriage. So what's wrong with that? Okay. And at the time, in the first alteration of it, Mary was seen as a good woman. A woman who wanted to, walk with Christ. Whereas in the new version of the Bible that was written by the church, Mary Madelene is supposed to be this prostitute, this whore, who was in the original Da Vinci painting of the Last Supper, but was removed from it because she sat next to, I think, the right side of Christ within that painting. So that's another conspiracy right there. Why hide the fact that Christ had a woman? Here's my thing. If I'm knowing the story of Christ, how he was birthed from a mother who was a virgin, and then he grew up and he ended up seeing a woman that he loved and he married her and he still served the will of God. What makes that different than any other woman who gets married and still serves the will of God? Basically what you're saying is that this being who's supposed to live the human experience doesn't live the human experience. How is him being in love with a woman a temptation when God created this type of love to begin with in the first place? So we know for a fact that people can be married, be faithful to each other, and still serve God. We know this. So why would you think that Jesus Christ, Yeshua, would not be capable of this same thing? You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make any. I guess it doesn't make any sense to me. But then a lot of things are supposed to be moved by faith, and it's not supposed to make sense. It's supposed to have faith. Sorry, but faith doesn't feed me. Faith doesn't put food on my table. Faith doesn't help my intelligence anything. I need to know answers. We need real answers. And the only way to get real answers is if we ask these questions. Why exactly is it possible for God to have his son in the flesh to live the human experience but not fall in love with a woman? Do you really think that Christ falling in love with a woman is selfish? You know what I'm saying? Why would we think that's selfish? Let's ask that question. I don't see anything wrong with Christ being married and having children and being faithful to one woman and then still serving the will of God. I don't see that. They even said that Mary was even there during his crucifixion. So she was an important figure somehow. She was very important. Heck, they even got movies, some movies where it showed that Mary Madelene stood next to Christ, his mother, Mary. A lot of Marys in there. He likes some Marys. And because when you think about Mary, it's just a one letter short from Mary, like marriage. If you look at it, Mary, Marry. But when we look at it, it's like, why? Why is it bad? Here's my theory. I feel like I have to stress that. Because you know you're going to have the fake Christians attack you. Like, oh, you're blasphemy. You're going to hell. For asking questions. You're not hell for thinking. Well, the real Christians are going to be like, that's some interesting points, though. Let me go ahead and answer those questions for you. So this is really the question for the real Christians, not the fake ones. My thing is this. What if, and this is my theory, what if Christ was married? What if Christ was married to a good woman? What if Christ had children? And the church, maybe through the Council of Nicaea, decided to abandon the fact and hide the fact that Christ had a wife, had children. Because then not only would it prove there's a holy bloodline that lives on earth, right? But also at the same time, we can't say he's the son of God because he was enticed by a woman. He was with a woman. He laid with a woman. God can't lay with a woman. We can't do that. I mean, the Greeks and Romans already did that. We can't, especially the Greeks. Their gods they're out there. We can't do that. Well, we got to hide the fact that Christ had a child. We got to hide the fact that Christ had a wife. And the reason why we have to hide that fact is because we can easily use it, Christ, as the symbol of Christianity, to be this upstanding, perfect figure who would never fall for feminine wiles. And this woman Mary that's around him, oh, she's not holy. She's a whore. It's about men. Here's the funny thing. We have clergy till this day. Now, I'm not comparing them to Jesus. I'm comparing the situation itself. We have clergymen till this day who sit up there and don't marry because they claim it's a distraction. But we already know and found out that a lot of these clergymen, bishops or whatever, have been sexually assaulting young boys. So you can't get it from a woman. So you decide to get it from a young boy. But yet you're unmarried because you want to focus on God. You see what I'm saying? So here's the thing. Like I said, I'm not comparing them to Christ. I'm just simply talking about the far as being unmarried so you can focus on the Lord and not deal with such distractions part. Here's my thing. There's nothing wrong with being married and focusing on God, especially when you got two people in a relationship who are focused on who they are serving. Okay, so even if you believe and have different beliefs, the same belief, and you're working together for the better spiritual benefit of everybody, I see that as a win. Because you got a lot of people who don't even focus on that. They're just focused on doing whatever the hell they want to do. They're focusing on stuff that don't even matter. But we also got to look at the Leonardo da Vinci painting. Why would Leonardo paint Mary into that picture? We know Leonardo da Vinci was highly intelligent. We know that. And we know where he got some of his knowledge from. He already proved it and said that he got some of his knowledge from Africa. And some of his basically inspiration. It basically the Millennium Man was inspired from some stuff he learned in Africa. But we know that Leonardo da Vinci wasn't about playing games. Leonardo da Vinci was about knowledge. And so what if the reason why he painted her in that picture is because he wanted to show the world that, hey, Christ was in love with this woman who she probably was a virgin herself. And he eventually got married. He remained faithful to this woman. She remained faithful to him. And they had children. Now, here's the thing. Just because Jesus has children doesn't mean his divine blood passed on to them. Because the divine blood left the body and left the earth when he died. But to also sit up there and act like that he's weak to the flesh like that. Here's the thing. Why would you tell me that Christ is on the earth to live a human experience? Why would you tell me God is on earth to live a human experience and be so-called tempted by everything when he can easily just brush it off? Let's ask ourselves this question. And this is not being disrespectful. This is using common sense and having an intelligent conversation. Did Christ ever get horny? Did he have that? Did he have the nocturnal emissions that most boys have when they reach the age of purity? Did God just stop it? Because if none of that happened, that gave him an unfair advantage already. So how can you be tested and live like man if you already have an unfair advantage to turn something like that off automatically? Every man goes through that. Like, I hate when dudes say, I ain't never masturbated. No, bro, stop. I don't care if you claim you was having sex when you were 12 years old. It happened. So stop with that. Stop. Most boys discover porn before they discover girls. So come on. And even then, you got some type of nocturnal ejaculation, because it's going to happen. You're going to have a sex dream. It's going to happen. It happens to almost, as far as I know, all males, because of the production of, sperm and shit like that, and going through puberty. And so that now we got to ask ourselves another question. And this is another theory. What if the reason why they took those books out the Bible of when Christ from the age of 12 all the way up to the age of 30 was because he was doing stuff he wasn't supposed to be doing? There's even theories, I think it's in Apocrypha or something like that said Christ got mad at somebody, ended up killing the person, and then bringing them back to life or something like that. That part I don't believe is true. Even if it is, it just sounds too outlandish. But how do we know when we talk about Christ that Christ wasn't this child that basically was a spoiled little brat? Like, hey, you're the son of God. Or what if he was born and didn't even know he was the son of God until he was like 12 years old? Then where'd he go? Most people said, oh, he went to go study in other countries. Okay, so why don't these other countries have any contextual history that show that a man named Christ or Jesus was in their area doing these miracles and learning stuff? Where is it at? Only time we hear about Christ is in the Bible. From birth to the age of 12, and then from, I think, around the age of 30 until his death. The only actual historical evidence of Christ is literally in the Bible, and we're seeing it as, oh, this is fact because it's in this one book. When you hear about wars and stuff like that, that information and who fought in the wars and who was the generals in the wars are not only in the enemy's history books, but also in the Allies' history books. So where is the history of Christ traveling around to these other countries, and why is it never talked about? Or did he even travel? Was there an history of Christ that was written down in which he actually fell in love with a woman and had kids? Because think about it. If you know for a fact that Christ has a bloodline hidden on earth, what if that is part of that secret family that's really running the world? But then again, we also got to question ourselves. Would Christ, just a high level prophet, or was he really the son of God? We got to ask a lot of these questions. Like I said, these are just theories. We got to look at it from all angles. So to sit up there and act like Christ doesn't have the ability to have children, and you're supposed to be living a human experience. If you're not susceptible to sin like I am, how are you living my experience? If you're not susceptible to temptation like I am, how are you living my experience? Me, I can get tempted while in a relationship with another woman. Like, here's my thing. I see it like this. If I'm in a relationship with a woman, right? We're having sex and doing the whole thing. If another woman tries to come on to me, it doesn't work. Even if she tries to show in front of me naked, like, do you want this? It doesn't work. The reason why I say it doesn't work, because it's like, I'm already getting that at home. I don't care if her body doesn't look like yours. I'm still already getting that at home. So why would I get it from you when I'm already getting it at home? Now, if I'm not getting it at home, then it's like, okay, just leave that relationship. It's a lot easier than cheating. But the thing is, it's hard for me to be tempted by another woman if I'm already in a relationship with a woman. So the whole cheating factor doesn't even really get to me. Oh, I got this, I got it. I don't care what you got. I don't care if you're better than her. I'm with her. Now, if I was single, you wouldn't give me the time of day. Let's be honest. Most women don't give a man the time of day unless they know they can take him from somebody. But when we look at Christ, why is it that Christ could not fall in love with a woman and then actually be faithful to her? How we know he didn't fall in love with Mary and Mary didn't fall in love with him, and then you got all these people tempting both of them, and they're able to resist the temptation because they have each other. Why was Mary around Christ to begin with in the first place? Because you can't write her off completely. You can't. You gotta have it to where it's being described that she's there. You can't just write her off completely. You can't. It doesn't make any sense. So to act like you can write her off completely, that's not going to work. It's really not honestly going to work. That's why I said we got to ask ourselves these questions. Do we really think that Christ having a child, we know it's a good thing, like, come on. But do we really think that Christ having a child is so bad to the point that it's like, oh, it says God was susceptible to temptation because he fell in love with a woman? Because he might have had kids? What? And that's the thing, it's like, why is it that when it comes to anything that Christ can be susceptible to, it's not wrote in the book? Why is it that all those years are missing? I asked that question before, and the first thing they say to me is, well, Christ was traveling the world and he was healing and spreading his word. Okay. So where is the other culture's history of Christ being there, spreading his word and doing these things? Or was it that he stayed in Jerusalem most of the time? And here's another thing that gets me the most too. If Christ is supposed to be for the world, that means he should have traveled to, it should be records of him traveling and being in the Americas. Australia, Europe, Africa, Greenland. If you're for the world, you should be all over the world, not just stagnant in one area and then say, hey, I sacrificed myself for humanity. You didn't even meet humanity. You didn't meet the different cultures or anything like that. So what's the real truth? Why was those books really taken out? So you got some people who basically said, hey, they basically quote, I don't think there's anything wrong with the concept of Jesus being married. Marriage, after all, was invented by God, unquote. Yeah. So my thing is this: I don't think that Christ had sex with Mary Madelene outside of marriage. I believe he would have fell in love with her, got married, and then did it the proper way, the way that it's supposed to be. You know, so they also said, and here's another funny argument. They said there is no record of any of that in a historical account. Wait, first they said, so anybody who's saying that Jesus was married is just making that up. There is no record of that in any historical account or any biblical account, unquote. Well, quote and then unquote. Well, here's the thing. We sit up there and say there's no evidence of Jesus being married in the Bible. But I literally just got through saying earlier that what if during the Nicaea Council they decided to take all that information out? Remember, we talked about the false history. It's all connected. We talked about the false history. So if Christ really did have a child, we wouldn't really know because the church probably would have kept that hidden. Another thing is, why does the Roman Catholic Church has so many stuff hidden to the point where you can't see it unless one, you know it's there, and two, what section it is in. So that's crazy for us to sit up there and act like, Christ couldn't have children. Is it so evil for him to have children? Or is it going to prove that he's just a man like everybody else and you can't use him as a symbol like you wanted to? Comment down below. Which one is it? Because I know at the end of the day, people are going to ask questions. Jesus didn't have no girlfriend? He ain't had no crush on nobody? If you didn't go through any of that, then you're not living a human experience. The human experience is love, anger, hatred. They got one part where they said that Jesus doubted God and said, God, why have you thou forsaken me? You know good and well, if you God, you know good and well he hasn't forsaken you. Come on. I think that was thrown in there as a little, Jesus has doubts. Because he went to talk to him in the garden and God didn't say anything. There's people who talk to God for hours and God never says anything to them. And not once have they ever been like, oh God, why haven't you forsaken me? Come on, bro. I feel like that was added in there in the Bible. But see, here's the thing we got to look at. We're all beings and creatures created by God. So the nocturnal emission is part of our evolution that was created by God. Let's look at that. The desire for sex created by God. The desire for love created by God. The desire for hate created by God. The desire for envy, anger. If God created us, we have to say God is responsible for all things about us. Love and hate exist because God exists. So we have to look at it from all these different angles. So how are we to say that Christ, living in human experience, didn't fall in love and get married? Because How would it look if I was to take and find out that the Son of God, or the person who saw himself the Son of God, right, got married and had kids? Oh no, we gotta throw this out. No, we can't do that. We gotta keep that out. If his kids on earth, just let them stay hidden. But no, we gotta take this out. Why we gotta take it out? Because if it's in there, people gonna know he's not the Son of God. Because the Son of God can't be susceptible to something like that. Oh, you're right. You're right. You're right. Let's go ahead and take it out. It's easy to take it out then. It's so easy to do that. It's so easy to get rid of that temptation that is there. So what can we do to rectify the situation? Not only that, what are your thoughts on it? Matter of fact, you can just comment down below. What are your thoughts on it? Because it's an interesting topic. It's an interesting conversation. It's a very interesting debate. Did Jesus really have kids? Was Jesus really married? Was Jesus really in love with a woman who had the same name as his mom? I mean, but then again, it could be another conspiracy that Mary Madelene never existed in the first place. So, I want to know y'all thoughts on that, because I'm at an impasse. I'm like, I don't have a problem with him having kids or being married. Now, they talking about it's out of wedlock. Then it's like, okay, that's doing too much. But for him being married and have kids and having a holy bloodline that descends on earth, like, why would it be? I'm getting sleepy right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut it out for this evening. I think this is gonna be the last one. I might do one more real quick, but yeah, just comment down below. Tell me what you think about Christ having children. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Or is it just something that people are just up in arms about for no reason at all? And I think the main reason why they're up in arms about Christ having children is because they're watching you.